Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of the USL Show. We are so excited to be back with a huge week. There were some awesome matches to talk about, but boy, did we get a lot of news in the last couple of days and some rumors, of course, as there are always rumors. But hey, as one or two leagues have shut the doors for this season with W League and League Two, a brand new league has joined the fray, and truly the biggest league in the world, and that is the USL Super League. And that is kicking off this Saturday, I do believe. And we are so excited to talk about all of it, absolutely everything. But first, Ryan, man, welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, it feels like it's been quite a while since I've been on the show, so I'm happy to be back.
Alan?
Doing well. I discovered a new joy in rewatching games. 0.175 speed on the Google Chrome, but the sound muted and musical theater on in the background. It was I was listening to Drag the Musical while rewatching Lou City versus Sacramento in prep for today, and it was the best time I've had in a very long time rewatching a game of soccer.
I love that. John?
I cannot match that, but I am doing pretty well.
Love to hear it. Hey, before we get into all of the news that we will get all the way into, I want to go and thank our wonderful, beautiful patrons: John Hunt, Frank Anthony, Aaron J., Christopher Cohn, Harry Austin, John Fuller, Michael Fuchs, Joshua Duder, Noah Telford, Alberto Aguilar, Jeremy Churchman, Stephen Howard, Rian Lacara, Tim Knox, NF 30, MOS, Kunal Patel, all of the Hedgehog, and Andrew. And I can't see the last name because the list has gone on too long, and we'll have to just shout your last name out later. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring us. And hey, the moment that our patrons list has gotten too long to see in one like little frame over to my side, that's a cool day. So if you want to join that long list of people, we will continue to say all those names, and that is in the description. And by the way, it is Andrew Townsley. So also I want to go ahead and thank Goals TV for sponsoring this episode. Go over to goals.tv and go sign up for free. If you don't like it, you'll get your money back. It was free. You didn't pay anything to begin with. You'll enjoy it. Lots of good content over there. Lots of good Super League content being posted over there. Hashtag wink wink. And also thank you to Added Time Outfitters for sponsoring the show. Use code USL to get 10% off your next order, even if you've used the code already. It's great. 10% off. It's a blast. Get stuff, get nice wristbands, get fun shirts, support a small business. We love them. We love you. Let's get into all of the news from the week. And let's talk about the lightest hitting topic first. I think this one's the quickest convo. Oakland has a new home. They are officially moving to the Coliseum. Hey, when the A's decided they didn't want to be around anymore, the Roots decided to step on in. I do believe the Roots are already in the Raiders' old practice facility. And now that they are going to be moving to the Coliseum, they are obviously taking over the Raiders' old field, but also the Athletics' old field. So now if they just want to take over old Oracle in some way, we'll see what the Roots are really capable of. But important part about this, I do believe, is that the Soul are not moving to the Coliseum, if I am reading stuff correctly. So if someone can correct me on that, but that was kind of what I understood from that. But super cool for Oakland Roots to be back in Oakland and taking over, despite what you may hear about it, truly a piece of American sports heritage, which is the Coliseum.
Yeah, and I mean, in terms of the logistics, nothing formal in the Soul. It was kind of positioned as a maybe it'll happen, but probably not. So you never know. But I mean, getting them into the Coliseum, which for all the faults, for all the worries that you have just with association to the A's at this point, like that's an institution in Oakland, and you're getting the team back in Oakland, literally laying down the roots. It's a 1-year lease for now, but getting that visibility, the plans to have the modular stadium at that Malibu lot nearby, this is an important step for the club that frankly has had a little bit of up and down in terms of where are we going to be playing, where are we going to sit down and kind of stake our claim within the East Bay. I love to see it for them, like a major step for Oakland, a major step for the league as a whole.
One thing I kind of mentioned sort of whenever I was planning to go out to Oakland last time, I was thinking, man, I need to go to the Coliseum because I have like this book that I have to fill out because I say I have to. It's one of my goals to hit every major league ballpark. And I was like, man, this was my only time to go to the Coliseum, before the A's move. Kind of cool that now if I decide to go back, the roots are going to be there. So I can still get to experience the Coliseum. And, I think this is just more proof of Oakland roots really investing in Oakland, because something that, granted, Oakland and the Athletics in particular are letting the Coliseum fall apart, and there are countless stories you can read about the Coliseum that are just like, this is really a real place that professionals play. But once the Athletics moved out, I mean, the place was going to deteriorate even faster. And now that the roots are going in, we'll see how much they can actually do to make it nice. But at least, they're going to be doing something to keep around such an establishment just a little bit longer.
Yeah, and you're looking at a stadium that is currently the 5th oldest stadium in Major League Baseball. It opened in 1966, the same year that Angel Stadium did in Anaheim. And just to still have it be continuously occupied since the stadium had opened is just going to be very massive for the city of Oakland, and to have a team play in such an iconic venue for the city is going to be great. And honestly, we just need more stadiums with the name of Coliseum in it. I feel like outside of the one in LA and the Coliseum in Rome, we don't have enough Coliseum named venues.
Is there a really good shot that Oakland, with this move and being in the city, could actually outdraw the average attendance for the Athletics? I know it's a little bit of a stretch right now, but like, it's in the realm of possibilities that Oakland roots will draw more people than the 9,000 average for the Oakland Athletics.
The roots are capping at 15,000, so like it's not possible.
Yep.
Aren't the Vegas affiliates for Oakland or for the Athletics already outdrawing the Athletics? Like, aren't the Aviators already outdrawing?
I mean, possibly. There's a off chance they outdraw the Quakes, who are averaging about 12, 13K. I mean, it's within the realm of possibility.
My question is, obviously, if they're going to be playing in there, how much are they going to get free realm to change the stadium? Because I can't imagine they're going to keep the giant bowl, basically, because the fans will be so far away. I wonder if they're going to put in like temporary stands closer to the field or anything like that. I know they had, at least I think I did. I think I saw that there was like a mock drawing of what it's going to look like, but I can't imagine they'll keep the fans that far away from the field.
Can we keep the baseball dirt too? It reminds me of watching Oakland Raiders games in September.
I mean, it's the equivalent of like playing on the Memphis pitch, so who really cares?
I mean,
yeah, I saw 1904 play at Qualcomm Stadium before they demolished it, and yeah, it's not the best fan experience to sit in a not soccer designed stadium that's far away, that is, not very steep. But I have a feeling that the Oakland folks will figure it out. I will miss the Blues Clues pitch. That there is something like, I know it was kind of mocked at the beginning, but there is something kind of iconic about watching an Oakland game on that pitch now. Like, you see it and you instantly have feelings and vibes about Oakland and the team. And so like it's almost part of their brand now, like football lines for Indy 11 were for a while. It just feels as if there's that connection. And so I put on some highlights earlier, and again, it's just that instantaneous, like all of the poo-pooing and the gruff that they got at the beginning for that pitch. It is like, you're watching an Oakland Roots match, and all of the positive vibes that brings when you see it.
Oh gosh, what was I going to mention? It was there. I had it. Oh, just real fast. Is this another time that we can finally bring Jose Canseco back, but this time he actually gets to play back in Oakland? Just halftime, just let him hit bombs again in the Coliseum. Just see what happens.
He is also very good at scoring points with his head.
This is true.
There we go.
I mean, you can recreate it with a soccer ball.
All right, hey, let's go ahead and move on to massive. I say news. We've known it's coming, but it's finally here. The Super League is here. I mean, I am so excited. I got my Peacock account ready. I had never bought Peacock. I got it just for the Super League, where our first match is going to be Saturday with Carolina Ascent versus DC Power, the rebrand before they ever played a game, DC Power. Spokane Zephyr versus Fort Lauderdale United, and then Tampa Bay Sun versus Dallas Trinity. Just early on, I just have to say it, besides like DC Power and maybe Fort Lauderdale, every single matchup is very just visually aesthetic. Like the badges are just very aesthetic looking. So I'm way into that, especially this Trinity and Sun match. It's just nice vibes. But God, I'm so excited it's here.
No, I mean, the run-up has been nothing but incredible, seeing these communities come together and like really develop their clubs, develop their identities. I'm especially excited for this Tampa Bay game, frankly. They seem to be doing everything right, especially with the composition of that roster. Dallas as well, like the Barcelona friendly, they're setting themselves up to feel like a team that matters. But hey, don't undersell what's going on Saturday on Peacock with like the Carolina, the opener of the entire league is going to be historic. Really just exciting to have watched this come up from the grassroots, watch Amanda and the team running it, really put in the hard work and make this feel like something that matters and something that people can buy into. And I'm excited to pay attention to and watch it all.
I've been trying to follow a lot of the roster building, and for me, it's trying to find the names that I am familiar with, try to find people who went to my alma mater that, would have played while I was there. And it's been fun because there have been players, and I believe it's 44 former W League players have made the jump up to the Super League in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So if you have a favorite W League team, I can almost guarantee that either a player's from your squad or you have seen one of these players play on one of these squads. And that's super exciting. It's nice to have that kind of continuity between the two leagues. I've kind of talked about it. I mean, like for me personally, like Zephyr has a player that went to Alabama. So does the Ascent. Ashlyn Sarepka played for Birmingham. So I'm excited to see her play professionally in the United States. Riley Mattingly, Parker, she's down at Tampa Bay, and she's so good. So like there's so many players that I'm just super excited to see play again, because we kind of talked about this, and we talked about the stats when the Athletic article came out. There's just not enough opportunities in the US. So there's about to be a lot of players from probably your favorite alma mater, or your alma mater, your favorite university, your favorite school, whatever, that you're like, man, I haven't seen that player play in 5 years, and they're finally getting their first or getting their second opportunity to play professional because the opportunity is finally available to them.
Yeah, and in the lead up to the start of this league, being from the Carolinas, I've been Very interested in seeing how Carolina Ascent will do, especially here within Charlotte. I think it's going to be a very fantastic opportunity to just really build up the game here. But the one team I'm also looking out for is going to be someone that John Hunt had mentioned in chat of Brooklyn, who will be playing on August 31st to start their year actually against Carolina, with Brooklyn FC joining the USL Championship next year. This is a fantastic opportunity to really have the soccer team in the borough of Brooklyn. And just as John has mentioned previously, just to have more soccer in the New York City area is just a fantastic opportunity.
Just in general. Oh, sorry, Alan.
I was just going to say, I feel there's also a moment of the guy watching woman build successful league that says, I want to do that too. And I think, while that league's is not on the map yet, I think there's a lot to be hopeful for this league to, again, I think Kaylor's right, bring opportunities where opportunities didn't exist. I'm going to highlight also off the pitch as well, just the opportunities for folks to get jobs in women's sport, whether it's behind the scenes or in front of a camera or photography or being a Twitter admin to get yelled at later by fans. All of those opportunities are there. And I think there is a feeling that this is going to be somewhat successful. Otherwise, MLS doesn't feel threatened by it.
Which I feel like we can't bring up the Super League conversation, which is kind of why I know some people reminded me about the Discord stuff. Yes, I will do that. It kind of, we can't really talk about it without talking about the Scarfs and Spikes article that came out. And I hate that is the case, but when you talk about the wars, the soccer wars still exist. I'm going to say this about, before I kind of give context about a lot of this stuff. I've met a lot of the guys at Scarfs and Spikes in person. They are genuinely good humans that put a lot of research into things, and they are actively trying to be in the good graces of people. So them taking down their article that basically said that MLS is coming for, making their own women's league, basically, and any MLS tied organization would just instantly join in, and that's how it will start their league, basically, was the gist of it. That was weird. That was it got taken down, and I don't think it should have been unless they were pressured to, because I'm sure what they got was what they believed to be very accurate information. But basically, yeah, MLS wants to have a women's league, and it definitely feels, and I mean, USL was given a specific shout out in there of, I don't know, just something to talk about, I guess.
I mean, the article did get recanted and taken off the site and scrubbed for a reason. Like, they got the intel that what they were reporting wasn't accurate. I don't think we can put stock into the report necessarily, as much as I respect the Callum Ewing who wrote the article was really trying to do good reporting. Like, I think people who had better connections kind of debunked what was going on. And that's not to say that MLS isn't going to come in and try to steamroll the women's game at some point. Like, that's kind of their whole MO across the board in every walk of life. But for now, I think the focus should be on the Super League and the fact that they aren't trying to steamroll anybody. They're trying to, add 160, 150 roster spots and all the opportunities for people off the pitch in a way that is not going at the NWSL, that is in many ways kind of adding a second layer of, if you need to move to a club where you're actually going to play and you're still going to get a living wage, come join the Super League. Like, that's fantastic to have the synergy at the top level right now. So I think it's better to just kind of focus on the positive and what we do know is going to be good.
Kind of just one last thing on the Super League. This is completely moving away from it. I I still can't get over the fact that the DC Power FC like logo release that they were going to have wing play as like a core value, basically. How do they know that?
Can I just say, I think the new logo is really good.
Yeah, the new logo is solid.
It gives
But yes,
me
the wing play, like anytime you look at a logo branding thing, be prepared to cringe is kind of my mentality, I guess.
I mean, it's not great, but also, I mean, just saying the wing play is part of our attacking identity, or the wings are our attacking identity. Are they? Did you ask the coach? Are we going to rebrand every time we get a new identity? We signed a striker, and now the monument's even bigger.
Or they sign Mourinho and the just logo becomes a bus. Is that what we're?
The DC transit system. I don't know. It cracks me up. I will say the DC logo looks a bit like something I saw in like, maybe this won't make sense, but like in Overwatch. It gives me
Oh, I see.
Overwatch vibes.
It's
Yeah.
got pro gaming vibes for sure.
Oh man. All right. Let's get to what has also recently taken the internet by storm, which is Lexington is going up to the championship. To the shock of some people, to most people, it's been one of the worst kept secrets kind of around. They have been outspending a couple of championship teams this year, but they still find themselves towards the bottom of the table, yet getting promoted. I guess the question is, are Lexington the best power bottoms of all time?
I don't know how you expect me to talk after that. I mean, I think I want to start off by just like addressing the skepticism to a degree. And it was a very negative reaction. I know, Kayla, you've kind of been poking fun at like people not knowing. There aren't a lot of people that follow League One and the championship. Like we're a select few, much less like people who have an awareness of, oh, Lexington has a stadium coming. Oh, that gives them the option to join the championship. Like there's layers of bureaucracy here that I think the average fan didn't realize. That this has kind of always been the scenario. This is what Lexington has been striving for since day one. So beyond the shock factor, you've seen a lot of criticism of the attendance numbers, which granted are in the thousands, but they're also playing in a worse spot than their current stadium is at on a college campus. Having their own venue, being able to market of, we've got this, we're going to spend the money, we're going up a league. That's going to be something that draws in fans to a culture that is already very strong at the grassroots. You throw in the fact that you're relocating them from a league that is very Southeastern in focus to a league that has Louisville 80 miles away, to one where you've got local games against Indy, Memphis and Pittsburgh aren't too far away. It feels like a better cultural fit. And granted, I do have skepticism of, should the championship have set up these clauses in the first place for cities that really aren't that kind of D2 top of the pile? But you play the cards you're dealt, and I think Lexington has done all the right things on the infrastructural side to make this work.
Yeah, and John mentions in chat that you see other teams such as Omaha who are looking at moving up to the USL Championship as well. And I think we're going to see a lot of those kind of conversations come up on which team belongs basically within which league at some point. But it is at least worth pointing out that with the championship gaining Lexington for next season, we are still at least structured to get a handful of teams coming into USL 1 next year between Alta, Naples, Portland, Santa Barbara, Texahoma, Eugene, and Westchester as well. So USL 1 are gaining a lot of teams with the departure of Lexington to kind of help alleviate the balance issues that the championship in League 1 has always had since the start of League 1.
I think you made some of those cities up. Those aren't real cities, are they? I'm just kidding. I mean, we can hem and haw, but maybe Lexington goes on a nice Jägermeister Cup run, and this is the prize for winning the Jägermeister Cup, is you just get to become a championship team instead of pro rel. It's a tournament knockout. We don't even know how the rules work, anyway. So maybe there's like a secret lever, it's gonna be like RuPaul going, Jägermeister rules are suspended, the winner gets to go up, right? But I do think, John's right. We've seen really strong teams go away because they didn't have the stadium, they didn't have the facilities locked up. And so if you can get a team that has that, facility in a good location, right? That was, I think, the knock on St. Louis when they were in USL Championship was the location of their stadium wasn't the best. And so they were putting a really good product on the pitch, but they weren't drawing enough people because of the location. And so I think all of those things are things that the league is looking at as far as, will this be a viable team in the future? And yeah, maybe the but is, they're not performing well right now. But I mean, we've seen teams go from the top to the bottom of the table in the championship, 1 year later, just because that's how things work in the league. Is you sign a couple really good players or don't sign a couple really good players, and you drop down the table or you shoot up the table. So I'm hopeful for Lexington. I think there's some excitement. I do think there is, some really good league matchups that will bring people to the table. And there is something to be said about going from League One to Championship, just like as much as we talk poop about MLS, going from League Championship to MLS, like those things do have a fact. Those have factors in, do people go and show up? Although I would hearken to bet that League One to Championship isn't quite as big of a pull, but it's when you see teams like Lou City playing on ESPN2, you're seeing that CBS game. Like, there are eyes on the league that haven't been there in the past, and so why not? If someone's willing to invest in it and they have the stadium, go for it. I think we should be cheering those teams on, and then laughing at them if they don't do well on the pitch, not financially. That's not as fun.
That's different. I mean, I think, and this is a I guess kind of a random question. Has our idea of a team moving up been jaded a bit after the North Carolina winning the championship last year and thus getting promoted? I know it's kind of a meme and it's like, haha, they actually got promoted this year, guys. Look at them go. But I mean, Lexington put money into that squad. That is, I mean, like I said, they're outspending for sure Monterey Bay.
Well, let me just, from what I understand, they're not only outspending Monterey Bay, they are spending twice as much money on their players as Monterey Bay. Like, it's not they're spending at a championship level, and if they can build a team with championship money, it's not going to be a question next year.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, go ahead, Alan.
I was gonna say, look at FC Cincinnati when they made the jump to MLS. It took them, they were kind of a laughing stock at first, but it took them a little bit of time to get their bearings, and now they're a pretty successful MLS club, right? So even if Lexington makes the jump up, because Cincinnati didn't win shit in the championship, woo! That's for my Louisville fans out there.
Crushed the league. They crushed the league.
But I mean, they were successful, but they weren't winning things in championship, and they moved up and weren't as successful at the beginning. But I think if you give Lexington a long enough runway, I think that they can do some good stuff, because they are financially committed to putting a good club on the pitch. And sometimes you swing and a miss, right? Sometimes you bring in good players and it just doesn't work. So there's something to do with that too.
Yeah, and even if you're looking at North Carolina for this year, they're still only a point outside of the Eastern Conference playoff picture, and they're currently above the team who won the Shield last year. If we're going to talk about teams going up and down the table with a turn of just one season, and I think if Lexington is going to be told in the championship next year, you're going to be basically still in the playoff hunt come August, I think they would certainly take that season. I mean, you could be having worse seasons in the championship this year. Look at what Miami and El Paso have been going through lately. Although I do at least want to talk about John bringing up the need to go to a different format when we get to what I think is going to be 26 or 27 teams in the championship next year. And at some point, it becomes like very unwieldy for conferences.
3 divisions, baby.
I think it should be one big Jägermeister Cup.
It's like March Madness. You play like one single elimination game, and that's your season.
Yeah. Here we go.
I mean, 26 teams, double round robin, 50 games. You only get 2-week off season, year round.
I do think the restructuring is going to be interesting because the league has been hesitant to expand past the 32, 34 game mark. Almost certain that the championship is going to join the Jägermeister Cup, if not next year, the year after that. There's going to be a real cut in league games at some point, and I'll be fascinated to see if the continued expansion of the championship and the possible need for some sort of competitive reorganization is the kick in the butt that gets them to get over the line in terms of Jaeger expansion.
I mean, we say cut down on matches. Well, who says they don't go up? I mean, we see like granted, not the best example, but the English Football League, the EFL, they're playing 46 matches in a regular season, not including the Carabao plus the FA Cup, any ties that they have on top of that. And they're playing like 60 matches a year if they make runs on things. I mean, who says that they don't just say we're sticking with 34, and if you make an Open Cup run / Jägermeister run, hey, good for you.
American Travel is saying no.
Well, shut up, loser.
And one more thing on the Lex jump. I don't think that necessarily League One to Championship means you're going to draw more fans. North Carolina, on the wake of a title campaign, jumping up a league, their attendance is down about 13, 14% this year. It comes down to marketing and facilities, and Lexington being a little bit closer to downtown, not being on the college campus, i.e. alcohol is good. Like, that's kind of big factors that you can throw in on top of the fact of, okay, we're going to market on the fact that we're spending to move up a league, and that is a big deal. So I'm bullish on it.
I mean, let's say, we can talk about what's going wrong in Lexington. You know, I mean, we
have a lot.
We've done it a ton. I am genuinely surprised. I mean, they had Darren Powell talk at this thing, right? I'm very surprised that he is going to be what seems like the coach to take them into the championship, because it has been dull. And I mean, if I'm being honest, that style of play in the championship, I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there. Put Lexington, like we said, is building monetarily wise a championship roster. Obviously, we can talk about other stuff that's out there, but like if we're talking about the money that they're spending, a championship roster, put them out on a field right now against Pureman's Battery with how Powell has them playing. It can't happen. It just can't happen. I think that the next part of this process, I think you have to get rid of Powell, right?
I never want to be the guy who's like, yeah, he should lose his job, because that just like rings bad to me. But I mean, it's a very unique opportunity to say, we've got a blank slate. We've got a nice budget. We're going to rebuild this thing from the bottom up. And we're going to get a leader with some youth, with some progressive ideas about how the game should be played. That's not to say Powell is a bad coach. I think there are definitely certain contexts where he could be an effective manager. I don't know if he's the guy for this situation in Lexington, given what we know about the future.
The other question I have about Lexington is the horsetail really like abnormally long on their crest? Is that just is that bothering me thing? That just like looks like a very, very long tail. But I don't know horses very well, so I'm not the best person to ask. But it just looks abnormally. It's been bugging me. It's like super long, like up to the
That could
back
be
of the
like their
head.
DC power that they'll just play out of the back.
Maybe.
I mean, I guess it's pretty long. Well, now I gotta look it up.
I'm not going to beef with it. It looks like too long a tail. Are his legs too long too? I'm just going to say.
A horsetail is apparently about 1.5 feet. And if this is a 2-scale horse, that's like a 4-foot tail.
I think the torso is too small, and I think it makes everything else look big.
This could just be Lil Sebastian from Parks and Rec, though.
They're relocating to Pawnee.
That is, again, that's why I was asking. I wasn't judging. I was asking the question, knowing that I was in the wrong, and so I thank you for pointing that out.
I guess the big thing with this, and I know it was the first thing that everybody pointed out, but it is incredible how close they got to a Ferrari copyright or trademark, but just didn't quite get there.
Who's who in Chattanooga? What's the deal with Red Wolves?
Oh, New Mexico, because New Mexico State are the Red Wolves, and it's like the same exact Red Wolf.
That's so funny. So at least, I mean, Lexington avoided that, so a win is a win.
I'm going to try to find it. Red Wolves. I'm going to see if I can pull this up. If you guys want to go ahead and start talking about the awesome match that was Louisville versus Sacramento, where, I mean, someone corrected me, Arkansas State. If somebody would, or knock me off of my perch a little bit, most exciting USL championship match ever for regular season?
Ever is strong. Of the season, I think you would have a hard time saying no. And to have this game on the ESPN2 platform, like, that knocks your socks off. And what a start to this game from Louisville City, and what a finish, certainly. It was Jansen Wilson on the wing again. Wilson Harris going absolutely bonkers up front. I mean, his motion simply tearing Sacramento apart. This was a game where, especially early on, Louisville really kept Pirano and Phillips in their pocket. I thought Kyle Adams started the game quite brilliantly. You were getting the supporting rotation into the low areas from Taylor Davila, and he was rewarded with the goal in the second half. It felt like the classic sort of Lou City game where they make a statement against another contender. And then Sacramento, I don't know what Mark Briggs said after they gave up that goal shortly after halftime, but it was like a flip switched. To me, it looked like they pushed their shape up and got a little bit more aggressive in that regard. The connections were making more sense. They were able to get Gurr in the space beyond the wingbacks much more quickly and effectively. It looked like the Sacramento team we expected from week one, frankly, like a team that wasn't missing a Roro Lopez or a Russell Cicerone. Ultimately not enough, and you don't blame Sacramento when they have 3 healthy center backs. They're playing a 17-year-old in that back line. But, I mean, you can't say enough about the Lou City performance and the heart to stay in the game after they take that hit. They go down 3-2, and to come back and to have that winner in the 94th minute from Harris on a somewhat broken play. Just incredible scrapping from them, incredible instinct from Harris. An instant classic game, to steal a term from NCAA football.
I mean, if we're going to talk about regular season games, we'd be remiss not to mention the miracle on the month for Pittsburgh Riverhounds against Harrisburg when that was that 6-5 Riverhounds game. That still remains my favorite ever regular season USL game. But I mean, back to the Louisville Sacramento match. What a game to actually put like on ESPN2 for the league, to have it just be another high quality contest. And honestly, like, the league has been like picking all the best type of games to have on their national broadcasts, just in terms of the amount of goals that are being scored and the best matchups. And it's been a really exciting time. If you're looking at Louisville, it's a side that still is currently atop the standings right now in the Eastern Conference. They're a point ahead of Charleston in the East and in the Shield right now. And just to reel off 4 wins in a row and to hand Sacramento their first back-to-back loss in quite some time is just a really impressive result.
Yeah, we've seen matchups like this where it's like you're excited because you think it's going to be fireworks, and then it ends up being like 0-0 because both teams are like playing hyper defensive and they don't want to, give anything away. But I think this game was important for both clubs, and also I think the inter-conference matchup gave them a little bit more freedom. Right, it's not going to play as big of a deal in the playoff race, so maybe they had a little bit more freedom to get after it. And it was like 2 heavyweight teams trading blows in a way that we just don't get to see very often with some of those top teams when they face each other. Is they, it could have easily been, like last week where there was a couple 1-0 nail-biting victories, which were heavily defensive because the teams were playing maybe a little bit less attacking, maybe a little bit more safe. But this was like, defenders stepping up, going on runs, playing, some high lines. That it was just a very, very entertaining brand of soccer, and one that we can hope for down the stretch as these games get tight and these top teams really have to go for it. So credit to both of those teams for, both playing that style of match, and Sacramento going on the road and throwing some haymakers at Lou City in a way that a lot of teams I don't think are built to, or maybe are afraid to, against Lou City on the road. So, tip of the cap to Sacramento for making it exciting. And, I think this shows just kind of where Lou City is this year. Is they can beat you with some counterattacking stuff. And then when broken plays happen, they just have really smart soccer players that can put the ball in spaces to help each other. And, this could have easily gone a different way with the right bounce, and Lou City got those bounces.
I mean, kind of speaking of the bounce, before we sort of move on, is hey, look, the drop ball moment.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so cool. And I mean, Tosh getting in a little ball roll assist to Wilson Harris. I mean, that's just cool. But man, for just a half volley drop ball moment that's essentially a corner, that is the final kick of the game. I mean, it is just, it was as good as it gets. I mean, that's kind of a moment that when we talk about the growth of a league, right? If that play happened, 3, 4, comfortably 5 years ago, it's the play of the season, no questions asked. It's definitely want to be one of the highlights of the season, but like there are moments and goals that have even outshined it this week. That's just cool. It just shows how much the level has gone. But man, what a unique moment!
No, absolutely. I mean, that's something you're going to remember forever if you're a Louisville City fan. Like, absolute magic.
Alan, you brought it up just a little bit, and I want to discuss it. There were fireworks at Hartford versus Rhode Island, but it was not of the end of, weirdly, Rhode Island. It was Hartford with the fireworks, but it wasn't on the pitch, where Rhode Island wins. Big win in the El Clamico, which, what about the calamity that was that one Hartford fan when he ends up in jail that night? Can I say something controversial? As long as the people around him were kind of okay with it, I kind of liked it.
I think the issue was that like random Rhode Island fans were not happy about getting like firework debris all over them.
That's fair.
I thought it was really cool. Like I'm totally into it either way, but
I mean, you hear those chants in England all the time of like, let's pretend we've scored a goal. It's obviously a tough situation to see your team down 3-0 for a match and struggling. So it was interesting.
We talk about like fan bases struggling to show up occasionally. Hartford has the most committed fans imaginable for a team that's been just horrible for what, 3-4 years now. Like, those guys go hard, and I love it.
When's the last time they made the playoffs?
Their inaugural season, I think.
I-
2019.
I mean, that sounds right to me.
2020, during the COVID year was.
Was it? Okay, I knew they had one really good season, and then they've just been the worst team in the world since then. Yeah, they've only made the playoffs once, and it was in 2020, and Alex Dixon was lighting the league on fire, and they've just been miserable since then.
And even that one year they did make the playoffs, they exited in the first round to St. Louis FC.
There you go.
Heritage. Yeah, I mean, it was a fun rivalry match. I mean, it is kind of funny. There are a lot of New England Revolution fans who have just now seen a lot of the Rhode Island shtick, which is a lot of them. It's like, we have more passion than the Rebs, and they're just like, we don't even think of you at all. But honestly, I think there are 90% of the country would kill to have what Rhode Island had that night in terms of passion and a fan base. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, no doubt.
But look, there's a whole lot to talk about, and we kind of talked about having some firepower and having a ton of fun on national broadcast. Well, how about a Telemundo debut for Charleston Battery, where, hey, it was not easy at first, but it does end up being what looks like a dominating win by the scoreline for the Charleston Battery.
Charleston scored a 3-1 win over a shorthanded Memphis team this weekend, but it was no walk in the park, and that's because of Memphis's unique deployment of a 4-4-2 shape, headlined by two midfielders anchoring the press. You see Emerson Heineman and Bruno Lapa closing down on the Charleston center backs, backed up by four midfielders who were man-marking their opposite numbers in the Charleston 4-2-3-1. You're seeing the Battery sort of work through, and they're able to keep possession, but because of that tight shape and because of the tight marking, it was very difficult for the Battery to advance in the early going. There was a lot of possession around the back, possession that was focused on the wide areas, working in an almost U shape around Memphis rather than carving through them with any sort of efficacy. That dynamic changed when the Battery were able to activate the half spaces, specifically on the left side. We've seen Juan David Torres drop low quite often to get touches, and you're going to see an example of that here. Because of that drop and because Nick Markanek is high on the right, it's almost a two-striker look for Charleston. They're working against the momentum of 901. They're getting Markanek involved in space against that momentum once again, and he's able to earn a corner for his efforts. You saw more players than just Torres activate in that same region to break through, however. Here, it's Arturo Rodriguez, dropping from the number 10 spot to complement the double pivot for the Battery. He works in, Nathan Dos Santos makes a really smart overlap, and then it's a payoff for Torres in the box. This is the sort of clever thinking, clever movement that powered Charleston. Memphis actually put up a nice fight when they went down a man, but before they could sub and rebalance their team, they had this turnover. Granted, it's a very well-worked play from Charleston. You're seeing Torres, you're seeing Markanek. They're able to turn on a dime and pay off the hard work in possession with a really quick break that catches Memphis out and changes the dynamic of the game. That variety, that ability to break down a set defense no matter the setup, is why Charleston is in the mix for the 1 seed.
I mean, look, obviously going up a man helps, but hey, like John mentioned, once they kind of made a couple of tweaks and really started exploiting those little spaces that Memphis was truly allowing them to have, it felt like that was going to be the result, no matter what Memphis did, if we're being honest, even if that red card does not happen. What a win for Charleston. And Nick Markanek is just on fire.
Yeah, I mean, Markanek is always going to be the guy that steals the headlines. The scoring is unbelievable. Like, the level he's ascended to this season really isn't matched across the league. But for me, it's the small things happening everywhere else. And I highlighted it in the video, but what Juan David Torres gives you just is this free flowing dynamo on the left side. I think the interchange in the midfield maybe is better without Aaron Malloy, which is really heretical to say. And Malloy gives you so much else in many different facets of the game. I feel like we're going to feel that absence in the weeks ahead when they come up against Louisville again. But for now, the level of flow with Rodriguez and Ikaza and Allen is so impressive to see. And shout out to Memphis, who, as weird as their setup was, it was really working. I think they're going to have some kind of plan Bs coming into the mix soon enough with Marlon healthy, with Panos getting into the mix. But yeah, I mean, a really good game and a really good example of why Charleston is where they're at in the table.
I'm just excited to see what Pyramid can just do with this team, man. Every single week it just turns into what kind of, what can he pull out of the bag this week? Quietly, and I know we've been talking about Nick Marcanic. I get it. We talk about him a ton. We're not really talking about how he's really pushing Aji Berry's goal scoring record right now. Like, I think he's going to get there.
The way he's playing right now, yeah.
Which makes those offers that they've been getting for him of sub 100,000 right now, just even more insulting considering Aji Berry went to, Pyramids for like allegedly just less than $1 million, even though that was like with other stuff, but it could have got up to $1 million. Which, again, that just makes what they're offering from Marcanic just so much more embarrassing, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, Marcanic and Myers both combined for 64% of Charleston's league goals this year. And it's just going to be really exciting to see them go up against Louisville this week and the two highest scoring teams currently in the championship. And it was a game that saw 5 goals when they met in Patriots Point back in April. And it should be a really fun match.
So let's go ahead and move on to some predictions. Why don't we? Hey, let's just go ahead, keep the party going. There's Louisville Charleston. Like, it's here, it's happening. I know the fans are looking forward to this one because of what they perceive as these crazy fireworks between Pierman and Danny Cruz, which I hope they give us more sound bites. I would love more than anything for us just to get more, not even coaches' hot mics, because they set it into the microphone with their entire chest. But I just want more of that. But God, these two teams are coming in so hot. How do you discern who the best one is? Let's go ahead and start with Ryan.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a really exciting match. It's going to be a match that I've picked to have both teams score over 2.5 goals. What I think is really interesting historically looking at this game is you have to go back to August 2019 to find the last time the visiting team has won this fixture, and that was Louisville going into Charleston and winning 2-1. I believe if you go back through the entire history, Charleston has never been into Louisville and walked away with all 3 points. So it's going to be a lot of just historical precedent they would have to reverse. But I think this game's going to end in a very exciting scoring draw.
Alan?
I'm going to go Lou City for all of the reasons that Ryan pointed out, except his conclusion. I think I think those are the reasons why you pick Lou City in this match. Is it's in Lou City. Charleston's been playing well. Except for that loss to Tampa Bay. Maybe a little bit of you have to play who you're against. The New Mexico win was pretty impressive earlier in the season. But as of late, Indy, Loudoun, Miami, a draw against Hartford, maybe a little bit of overhype for the wins. Versus Lou City, clearly playing well against a good Sacramento team. They beat New Mexico. They beat the high-flying Monterey Bay. So I'm going to go Lou City on this one.
Yeah. So Ben in the comments, clearly prepping for some cool graphics, is pointing out that the league goal scoring record is 25 and the Charleston record is 27. I think Marquette clears both of those, frankly. And that's my nice little lead into the fact that I think Charleston is going to lose this game. Lou City is so good at home, and I think they've come away with some really valuable lessons, not only in the game against Sacramento, but in the first game against Charleston. And that was a matchup where very early on in the match, the way they used their wingbacks and the way they pressed with 3 forwards left them very vulnerable at the back. And Marcanic ate them up on the right wing. He was constantly getting space in behind, constantly able to set teammates up and force defensive rotations. I suspect, as we saw late on when Dylan Mears came on and put Louisville into a 3 center mid formation against Sacramento, something like that is going to be the move from kickoff in Charleston. They're going to be a little bit more cautious with the wingback play. I just have a tough time seeing anyone going into Lynn Family Stadium right now, and I think Louisville wins this game.
I'm taking Charleston, and it really comes down to, like, I think that in terms of squads, I think that Lou City may have a small advantage, maybe, but also I just think that what Ben Pierman does as a coach, and not even just tactical, forget the tactics for a minute. I can't think of another coach in USL history that not only thrives in, but also can really instill the heel the way that he can into a team. I think that he can just somehow get to his players and just make them so excited to go somewhere else and just try to win. I think it's going to be Charleston. I think it's going to be fun no matter what. I'm really hoping we don't get what Alan said earlier and say it's going to be a defensive 1-1, but also that's not Ben Pierman's or Danny Cruz's style at all.
Yeah.
So next up, let's kind of talk about two teams that tend to, well, curl up and go defensive and grind out a 1-0 win. Birmingham versus Detroit. Of all the matches that are going to happen, this is one of them. And it should be the first time. I mean, Legion have finally beaten Detroit for the first time in their club's history. Can they do it twice in one season? I'll be interested to hear. Ryan.
Yeah, I feel like Birmingham will be able to complete the double and beat Detroit on this week. And if you look at their 2 previous home games that they've had against Detroit, historically, those have both been both teams to score as well. But it's been 46 days since Detroit has last won a game. And I haven't seen enough turnaround from this team over the last month and a half to really put a lot of faith into them to win this one. So I have Birmingham winning.
Is it my turn? Yeah. I'm gonna go with DC only because I know how mean they can be on the internet.
Honestly, that's fair. John?
Yeah, so I'll invoke the ire of the Detroit fans because I'm taking the Legion in this one. I thought Birmingham looked rather flat for occasional spells, certainly against Monterey. But man, Detroit, they don't feel like they have a grip on what they want to be doing on the field right now. It's a lot of formation changes between back 3 and back 5, or back 3 and back 4. I know, like, Elijah just got back into the squad, but it's a revolving door in the pivot nonetheless. Jesse El Cedeno doesn't feel like the answer breaking down teams in the final third as much as I hoped he would be. This is going to be a low-scoring game, but ultimately I just trust Birmingham a little bit more given Detroit's form.
I'm taking Birmingham because I'm a homer, which usually I don't do because I'm like so negative. If I'm Detroit, I am licking my chops a little bit that 2 of Legion's starters are at center back are likely to be out with Famuel Kavita and Alex Cornale. So that should be something. But also AJ Patterson and Jake Roof are solid backups to that. So it's not like you're massively dropping off a cliff there. I think that the continuation of what has been the Stefano Pino show I think you can have a moment.
That goal he scored was so ridiculously great.
Unbelievable. He's tried that 3 or 4 times this year. Like, that is not the first time he's attempted it. He just finally connected. It's unbelievable.
That for me, that's one of the best goals we're gonna see all season.
Yeah. And with Pino having these moments of magic, I think I'm kind of with everybody on this, that I think there's only going to be probably one moment of magic, and I'm thinking it's probably going to come off Pino's foot. I'm going to call it Birmingham. Hey, we have Rowdies versus Loudoun, which last time that these two teams played, Loudoun got a good little victory out of them. And it was one where the Rowdies looked like they were going to be the team that was too hot to trot, that they were really going to be running away with basically the second place in the East and maybe even catch up to Louisville. Loudoun has been hot as they have been going through their spells kind of all year long. Does Loudoun keep it up? Does Tampa Bay get revenge?
What sticks out to me is similar to the Louisville-Charleston fixture is the visiting team here, Loudoun, has never gone into Outland Stadium and walked away with 3 points. You look back to the October 2022 matchup where they lost 8-0 in that one. Obviously a clearly different Loudoun team, but this is a Tampa Bay side who's averaging 2.8 goals per game at home when they played Loudoun and have outscored them 14-2 in that time. I just think Tampa Bay at home is just another beast, especially in this series, and I have the Rowdies winning this one.
Yeah, Tampa Bay is one of 4 teams to not have a loss in their last 5, which if you had me guess which of the other 3 teams off the top of my head, I would not have gotten this correct. It's Pittsburgh, Las Vegas Lights, and Tulsa are the 3 other teams to not have a loss in the last 5. I would have guessed probably every other team except for Miami in that. And so I just think, Tampa Bay, I mean, although Loudoun did have some nice looks against Oakland and maybe probably could have scored a couple of them, but I think right now that just is maybe where Loudoun is they get into good positions, but maybe don't quite have the firepower to always finish well. I mean, you're sitting with an open goal and kick it over a couple times. Not a good look. So I went with Tampa Bay on this one.
Tampa Bay looked extremely flat on the road in Phoenix last weekend. And they're a team that, for whatever reason, just has these matches where they lay an egg. Most of the time it's on the road against a team in the West, but it is something to be concerned about, certainly. And I think the root of the problem in Phoenix was a lack of cohesion in the midfield, especially defensively. Loudoun's a team that can take advantage of that and create chances. I wouldn't be surprised to see Khalil Ahmadkar finally get a start for that team, possibly in a shifted shape that really emphasizes that advantage in the central midfield. That said, I think the Rowdies come out hungry. I think they look to try to get a win in this one. Jennings and Ardiaga aren't going to stay off the score sheet long, so Rowdies are going to win.
Last time they played, I'm pretty sure I picked Loudoun because I had a lot of belief. And I don't know. And I know how they played against Oakland. I get it. But I don't know. There's just something about this Loudoun team that makes me believe. And I've been saying, that's been the motto of the show, weirdly enough, for the last 3 years, is that something about this team makes me want to believe. And I'm going to continue to believe. Hurt me again, Loudoun, please, because I am taking the Pegasi, whatever they are. Next up, we have San Antonio versus North Carolina, which, yikes. I mean, I don't want to get into predictions too soon, or my own, but North Carolina is a good defensive team, and San Antonio could not buy a goal if they tried. In fact, it'd probably be taken off in a stretcher. Sorry, Jake LaCava. I'm really sorry.
Woof.
I mean, dating back to June 1st, the team has won twice. It's and their last win came on July 6th. If you're looking back at their last 4 games, they've been shut out in 3 of them. I think North Carolina being right on the edge of the playoff picture is going to see that, and it's going to propel them to a victory this weekend, especially knowing that you're looking at a Loudoun and a Detroit team who have tough outs this weekend, that moving into the playoff picture is going to be enough to get North Carolina with 3 points.
Yeah, things are just not going well in the state of Texas right now for either of those two teams. I just believe in North Carolina a little bit more on this one. Not that I'm like sold on North Carolina as like an amazing team, but you know, San Antonio's only win of note is against Phoenix, and in previous years that would be a pretty big deal. This year, it's not much to hang your hat on, except for the rivalry purposes. But I'm going to go at North Carolina, and maybe that's the jumpstart San Antonio needs, is me picking against them.
North Carolina looked so good against Colorado Springs, like jumped all over them, aggressive in the press in a way where, yes, they've tended to hold a high line, often kind of offside trap mode, but really do they close down and take the ball away from you so clearly as their intention. San Antonio is a team that can play over that setup, but they're also a team that has no juice in the final third whatsoever. If, as it seems, Jorge Hernandez and Kevon Lambert are out for any amount of time, I think that's probably it for San Antonio this season. So that's the long way of saying North Carolina gets the win.
Yep, I am also going to take North Carolina. All right, let's go ahead and go down to League One, where we have Madison versus Charlotte, where, hey, look, Madison still looks like Madison. Shocker. But Charlotte looks good. And I feel like every few months we say that, and then they look absolutely horrific. But they are in one of their spells where they look so good. Who do you got?
Yeah, this was a tough one for me. You're looking at a Charlotte team who's currently atop of League One right now, and Madison, who's just a point back from them. If you look back at the last 2 times these 2 teams played, that was the first time Madison had ever beaten Charlotte in a match across any USL 1 competition. We've mentioned that the Independents have been playing well. You have to go back to June 19th to find the last time they had lost a match, and in every game since then, they've scored. I've gone for another scoring draw in this one, but I would certainly lean more towards Charlotte to win.
Yeah, I need to play catch up in this game because this is also tactical in that we are picking points against each other. And so I went on a limb here. I know Charlotte is doing well, but I have a soft spot for forward Madison. I always have. And so I'm going to say that they are going to pull maybe a little bit of an upset here, and maybe I get an extra point on somebody in our pick'em game. And so I went with Madison.
Yeah, I mean, Charlotte, the way they're playing, the way they're attacking is so impressive to me. Finally finding the form you want to see and not just relying on Austin Pack to get the job done. I think Gabriel Oberton, particularly in that sort of free-flowing second striker role that he's been in, has been otherworldly in a way that his resume probably predicts he would be. I think they go on and get the win here against a Madison team that still has to show me the consistency, the ability to get it done week in and week out.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Madison, but I'm going to be honest, I don't feel great about it. I mean, someone that we talked about a bit in the preseason, but it's kind of got lost in the mix a bit because I think he was out for a while, was Omar Sis. Like,
yes.
He's unbelievably good, and he's someone that I should talk about more because I love watching him play. He's your number 6's favorite number 6. Like, he is just so good. But then I just keep looking at this Madison roster. I just look at the names. I know that the game is not played off names, But God, the names are so good. I just can't get over it. I'm taking Madison against all better judgment. Go ahead, Gio. Cue the meme because, hey, Charlotte are still top of the table for now. Let's see. Last up for the night is going to be Fuego versus Lexington. Everybody's favorite matchup in this one because we are dealing with two teams at the bottom of the table. Fuego has one more point and has allowed one less goal. So that's cool.
I mean, if you look at the 4 previous all-time meetings of these teams, what we are at least in for as a promise, and given that it's going to be USL 1 after dark since this game starts at 11 p.m. Eastern time, is both of these teams score a bunch of goals. They have had all 4 of those games beat both teams to score, and 3 of those games have been over 3.5 goals. I think if you look outside of their defeat to Omaha in the Jägermeister Cup, Fuego, if they can win this one, will have won 3 consecutive games in USL 1 league play for the first time in their club's history. And that's why I'm backing them to win against Lexington.
This is going to be a tough matchup for Fuego to play a championship level club. So it's going to be. I went with Lexington because I just think that the championship club is just going to have a little bit more firepower than a League One team. So I went with Lexington.
Unbelievable.
I do have a draw here, and kind of everything in my brain wants me to say Fuego get the win. Kind of the magic of the After Dark, the fact that I really like what they've got with Heckenberg in the middle. Mariona at right wing back. Project 510 product has been unreal since signing with Fuego. That said, Lexington, if there's ever a week for them to kind of get a bump out of nowhere, it's this week. So I'm trusting the fact that they're going to kind of step up to the expectations of second division soccer and at least draw against Central Valley, which should not be too big a hurdle.
I mean, it was for El Paso for like 2 years in a row.
I mean,
I just want to point out that John. I just want to point out John said exactly the same thing I did, except it sounded way smarter. So
off of vibes, it's to me it has to be Fuego. To me, I mean, Fuego is.
You don't think Lexington has the vibe this week?
No, because I feel like a lot of those players are thinking, "Oh God, we're not even good enough for League One right now. We're definitely not making the move up."
That's fair.
But I mean, seriously though, I mean, like Fuego's been hot. Like they've been good, and we saw that at Lexington got a dramatic win over a rival with 1 Knox, and that's cool, and maybe that gives them a bump. But they've also been doing well in the Jägermeister Cup all year long, and it has yet to translate into the league. I have to take Fuego at home. I mean, it just makes too much sense, which is probably why it won't happen. But to me, it makes too much sense.
This was really just one long bait and switch where we draw the Lexington fans in and then crush their hopes at the end of the show.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the show, guys. Which honestly has been the entire season for them. Draw them in, we're bad. But the Super League team is here. Dang it. Also, I know this isn't kit season, but like their kit is bad. The Super League kit is not good.
I mean, yeah, it's not good. Like, I'll leave it to kit season because, again, I'm too mean to Lexington. But yeah, it's boring and bad.
Can I share the Red Wolves the Wolves that are in question?
State. Yeah.
I just want to throw these out here. Let's start off with the classic. That is the Chattanooga Red Wolves. Oh, here we go. All right. We've seen the sad wolf before. I mean, he doesn't look as depressed as I remember, but a little sad. Now, this is the other one.
Does have multiple mountains, though.
Does have multiple mountains. Now, I don't think it's as similar as I remembered. This is the Arkansas State. Not as
Dare
similar
I
as I
say
remember.
not at all?
Beyond
They're
the name, I
completely
don't
different?
see it.
Yeah. Go back to the Chattanooga.
I mean, they're both Red Wolves. That's it.
No, they're like crazy different. I cannot believe that they're suing over this.
That said, if somebody was going to sue, which is why I thought it was New Mexico, I feel like the New Mexico ones. Oh wait, I didn't share the screen. That's on me. Let me go back. The New Mexico one, I feel like they might have a case.
With Northern Colorado and
A Lobo,
Monterey
you
Bay.
mean?
Yeah,
But they're a Lobo.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's not a red wolf.
sure, but the wolf looks the same as the Lobo.
But he's got like
I mean,
a Looney
there's
Tunes look to him, whereas like the red wolf is just stern and sad.
Yeah,
there's also a distinct lack of mountains in this logo, and so I think that's enough to differentiate. And the Arkansas one only had like maybe one set of mountains, and Chattanooga had like maybe at the top there's a little bit of a mountain range, but I think Chattanooga with the multiple mountain-esque moments, I think there is no brand confusion there, which I think is one of the standards for logos.
If you're an audio listener, look up the Arkansas State logo and tell me why the wolf looks like he's crying.
They have Butch Jones as their head coach.
It does have the very sad cry things out of the side of the eye, and maybe it just got spayed and or neutered. So they followed Bob Barker's advice.
it is kind
I
of.
don't know. They lost 73-0 to Oklahoma last year. What do you want from their program?
That's a good
I
point.
love you telling a football score with a nil more than anything I've heard all night.
What a time to be alive. All right. Any final thoughts for final USL thoughts for the night? Anything?
I would say what a time for Grant Stoneman to get his first goal for Rhode Island this past weekend. I was super happy to see him put one in the back of the net for what is quickly becoming like a replacement for the hole in my heart.
And
Bless.
on that note, a shout out to Andrew Vasiliadis for hooking me up with the Loyal Legacy book. It means a lot to have that. So
Yeah, it's great. It's like great, and it was like free. There's going to be a public link soon, but he wanted to make sure. Yeah, he wanted to make sure like the supporter people and the people who are on the team got a copy. If you want a pretty like epic yearbook from like the guys from Glory Mag, the people from Glory Mag are phenomenal. They're just like kind of like us, where it's literally like a hobby for them. It's not like their full-time gig. It's putting together these like epic magazines, Glory Mags, and they're phenomenal. They're just get them. But this legacy is super great, and shout out to them for putting together such a great product.
Yeah, mine was going to be the Stefano Pino goal. I've watched it a lot.
I would too. It's a thing of beauty.
All right, final thoughts for the night, Ryan.
Yeah, I guess later this week I'll publish my Premier League predictions for the season starting this weekend. So looking forward to dropping that article. But I guess beyond that, I made orange chicken and noodles in my air fryer and on the stove this week. I was craving Panda Express, but didn't feel like driving all the way to a Panda Express, and it tasted fairly solid. And I actually now do have the Panda Express sauce container here, so I can just do more mimicry of that in my kitchen. So yeah, just experimenting with other foods to cook.
Nice. Love that. Alan?
School started back up again, so life is a little bit less sewing centric and more school centric, so that's good. Yeah, so I moved more back up to Riverside than I was before, which is sad. But yeah, it just means more old episodes of Drag Race while I sew in the evenings instead of in the afternoons.
Bless. John?
Yeah, tomorrow, I think, today, if you're listening podcasty, I've got a giant article about the Las Vegas Lights coming out. I got to talk to Dennis Sanchez, John Leonardo Neglia, and Solomon Asante about why they are good and what went wrong with like everything ever in the history of the Lights previously. So check that out on Backheeled.
Fun stuff. That's awesome. Oh, I had one, but I just don't remember anymore. It's just been one of those days. Let me tell you, one of those. Oh, actually, just a story from yesterday. Trigger warning: if blood freaks you out, turn off the episode. Okay. Just thought I'd let you know.
Oh,
Yeah.
It doesn't work if I turn off my cam.
Oh, yeah, no. Basically, I had a girl. She was just trying to fix some color guard stuff, and the pair of scissors slipped and cut herself really bad. And she's like, again, trigger warning: if getting blood bothers you, turn it off. Like she's like just makes my band room looks like an entire murder scene, like spraying and pouring blood everywhere. And she's like, I'm bleeding a little bit. And I'm like, girl, this is more than a little bit. And I was like, uh-oh, like where's all my things? My wife, my wonderful wife, she cleaned my office for me, and that was awesome. I love her so much. But I couldn't remember where she put the medical bag. So like she's like holding, like she's bleeding like crazy. And I'm like, I don't know where my medical bag is. I'm freaking out. She's okay. She got 6 stitches, but she's okay. Everything's fine. Yeah. But that was my day yesterday. I spent 2 hours cleaning up my room because our custodian was apparently busy. I don't know.
You hate to see it.
That was my day yesterday. Anyway, hey, thank you all so much for listening. While we were recording, I got to pull up this name because I just want to throw it out there. I want to thank Timothy Meadows for becoming a Patreon member. So in the middle of this episode, we gained 1. Thank you so much for supporting what we do. And thank you to all the patrons that support us. And go ahead, check out goals.tv and go make sure you check out atatimeoutfitters.com. Use code USL. Get that 10% off your order, baby. It's going to be a blast. And you're going to look great. You're going to feel great. And you should feel great because you made it to the end of this episode. And for the final time, you get to hear Alan's voice.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show.
The USL Show is now proudly part of the Protagonist Podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see everyone again next time.